The refugees were taken to Fort Ontario in Oswego, New York, where they were greeted by camp officials and members of the Red Cross. Some, however, were horrified to see a barbed wire fence.
We get into Oswego and we pull up to the camp and they see this fence and barbed wire. And now they're hysterical. And some of them say, "How could you do this, Mother Ruth? We escaped from camps like this. We come to the free America and you put us behind barbed wire?" And I try to tell them that every army camp has a fence and barbed wire. They wouldn't listen. But one woman says, "Don't listen to some of these people. We feel safer behind a fence. The enemy is outside."
On page 59 of Haven, you mentioned the oldest refugee on the boat, 80-year-old Isaac Cohen from Salonika, Greece, who is my great-grandfather, who is this man right here. This is my grandfather, and this is my dad, who was 9 at the time. What can you tell me about them? Do you remember anything about them?
He was not a very happy man, that's true. He would always look a little, concerned. But I think he was worried about the whole family.
Ruth's memory of my family came as no surprise. They had what many would describe as a charmed life in Greece. My grandfather, Richard Cohen, was a successful dentist, and my grandmother, the daughter of a wealthy family in the textile industry. After serving as the dentist in the camp, my grandfather was unable to practice in the U.S. and was so concerned about anti-Semitism here, he changed the family name and became André Richard. My grandmother got a job as a seamstress and eventually worked her way up to an assistant buyer position at Gimbel's department store. She also changed her name from Rebecca to Olga in memory of her sister who had been killed by the Nazis. Having lost most of their family in Greece, their story of survival was too painful and went largely untold. What was the response from the people of the town of Oswego?
Most of them were fascinated. They came and threw gifts over the fence. The schools of Oswego opened their arms to our children. And these children were hungry for education. Some hadn't been in school since 1932, 33. 15 years they had been running. And now they were in a school learning to read and write.
It's mid-April 1945, FDR dies. Then comes April 30th, Hitler commits suicide. A week later, Germany surrenders. Now the refugees are really in limbo. What was that time like at the camp?
There was panic. They all began to say, "We're going to be sent back."
And that's what nearly happened. Congressional hearings on the matter were held at the camp, but Congress kicked the decision back to the state and justice departments. And that's when a major lobbying effort got underway. The camp's beloved director, Dr. Joseph Smart, quit his job so he could focus entirely on the plight of the refugees. Ruth rallied the media for editorial support, and many private organizations offered their assistance. Even Eleanor Roosevelt, who met personally with the refugees during a visit to the camp, took up their cause. While the government wouldn't change the law, on December 22, 1945, President Truman announced that the Oswego refugees could stay in this country under existing quotas. While in reality the announcement came over the radio, it was touchingly dramatized in the stage version of this story.
As soon as practicality permits, they will be transported in a convoy of military vehicles out of this country, across the Rainbow Bridge, into Canada, an arrangement we have worked out with the Canadian government. Once in Canada, the refugees will be met by an American consul who will give to each of them a visa for legal entry into the United States. May I extend a most sincere welcome to those 1,000 future Americans.
1,000 helps make up for the thousands we could have saved. It was, to be sure, late and too little, but it was something.
What did you learn about yourself that you didn't know before you got on the boat?
From that moment on, my life would be inextricably bound with rescue and survival. That I had two tools. I had words and I had images. And I realized that every one of us has tools. We have to find those tools and use them and fight injustice.
What's really amazing is that this story is just one chapter in Ruth Gruber's life. And at the age of 95, she has published her 19th book. Witness includes nearly 200 of her own photographs, one of which was a Life magazine photo of the week. 1,000 souls, they sing in the musical, and thousands more who, like me, are first-generation Americans who would not be here today without this magnificent story, without people like Ruth Gruber, truly a winning woman. For 1010 Wins, I'm Susan Richard.
Like